Marcus Chen threw his body between the trembling woman and the three men in suits closing in on her. His fist connected with the first man's jaw before he could think, before he could calculate the risk, before his brain caught up with what his gut already knew. These weren't lawyers, and this woman wasn't just hungry. She was running for her life. The briefcase in the lead man's hand fell open, and Marcus saw it not legal documents, but syringes, duct tape, and a folded black plastic sheet. The woman grabbed his arm, her whisper cutting through the chaos. "They killed my father. I'm next. Please." That's when Marcus realized the breakfast sandwich he'd given her 30 seconds ago had just made him a target too. Drop a comment with your city below. Let's see how far this story reaches across America. Marcus had exactly $4.37 in his wallet that Tuesday morning. He knew because he'd counted it twice while standing in line at Joe's Corner Cafe, doing the mental math that had become second nature over the past 3 years. 2 breakfast sandwiches, one for him, one for Sophie. Maybe a small coffee if he skipped lunch. The electric bill was due Friday, and his bookstore had pulled in exactly $218 the entire week. He was about to order when he saw her. She sat in the corner booth, and something about the way she held herself rigid like a wire pulled too tight made Marcus's chest constrict. Her clothes had once been expensive. He could tell by the cut of the coat, even though it was soaked through and mud-stained. Her hands shook as she wrapped them around her stomach, and when she lifted her eyes to the menu board, Marcus saw something he recognized from his own mirror 3 years ago, right after the funeral. Right after the lawyers told him the company wouldn't be held responsible for the faulty brakes that killed his wife. Desperation. 2 breakfast sandwiches and a large coffee. Marcus told Joe, sliding his crumpled bills across the counter. "Rough week?" Joe asked, counting the change. "You know it." Marcus picked up the bag, but instead of heading to the door, he walked to the corner booth. The woman didn't look up until he set the sandwich and coffee directly in front of her. "You look like you could use this more than I can," Marcus said simply. Her head snapped up, red-rimmed eyes, hollow cheeks, lips cracked from exposure. "I can't," she started, her voice hoarse. "Yeah, you can. It's already paid for." Her hand reached for the sandwich, trembling so badly she could barely unwrap it. Marcus turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. "Why?" He looked back. "Because somebody helped me once when I needed it, paying it forward." That's when the door exploded inward. 3 people in dark suits burst through, rain streaming off expensive raincoats. The woman in front, steel gray hair, sharp features, briefcase clutched like a weapon, scanned the cafe and locked eyes with the woman at the table. "Ms. Blackwood," she said, her voice cutting across the small space. "We need to talk, now." The woman at the table, Blackwood, went rigid. The sandwich fell from her hands. Marcus knew that look. He'd seen it on his wife's face in the hospital when the doctor stopped talking about treatment and started talking about making her comfortable. Pure animal terror. "Step away from her, sir," one of the men said to Marcus. Mid-30s, wire-rimmed glasses, hand inside his jacket. "This is a private matter." Marcus didn't move. Something was wrong. These people weren't concerned. They were hunting. "Elena," the gray-haired woman said, her tone shifting to something softer, more dangerous. "Your father would want you to handle this properly. The board is waiting. The company needs you." "My father is dead," Elena whispered. "And you know exactly why." The temperature in the cafe dropped. The second man moved closer, hand still inside his jacket. "Ms. Blackwood, you've been missing for 3 weeks. People are worried. We just want to take you somewhere safe." "Safe?" Elena's laugh was broken glass. "You mean silent." Marcus's old instincts kicked in, the ones from his consulting days when he'd investigated corporate fraud, when he'd learned to read people to spot the tells. The gray-haired woman's eyes were too calm. The man's hand inside his jacket wasn't resting on a phone. And the third person, a younger woman standing by the door, was blocking the exit. "I think the lady wants to be left alone," Marcus said quietly. The gray-haired woman's eyes shifted to him, and Marcus felt himself being assessed, categorized, and dismissed. "This doesn't concern you, Mr. Chen. And actually it does. This is my neighborhood cafe. These are my neighbors. And I'm pretty sure you're making everyone uncomfortable. Marcus, Joe called from behind the counter, his hand hovering near the phone. Everything okay? The man with glasses smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Everything's fine. We're just helping our colleague home. She's been unwell. I'm not going anywhere with you. Elena said, her voice stronger now. She grabbed Marcus's sleeve. Please, don't let them take me. The gray-haired woman's composure cracked slightly. Elena, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Think about your father's legacy. Think about what he built. I am thinking about it. That's why I'm still alive. Marcus made a decision. He'd regretted playing it safe once before, and it had cost him everything. Not again. Lady, I don't know who you are, but she clearly doesn't want to go with you. So how about you leave your card, and if she wants to contact you, she will. The man with glasses took a step forward. Sir, I'm going to ask you one more time to... What's going on here? Everyone turned. A Seattle PD patrol officer stood in the doorway, rain dripping off his cap. Joe must have called. The gray-haired woman's face became a mask of professional courtesy. Officer, thank goodness. We're from Blackwood Pharmaceuticals. This is our COO, Elena Blackwood. She's been missing for 3 weeks. We've been searching everywhere. The officer looked at Elena. Ma'am, is that true? Elena's grip on Marcus's sleeve tightened. Her mouth open-closed. Marcus could see her calculating who to trust. Who would believe her, whether the truth would get her killed faster than a lie? Yes, she finally said. My name is Elena Blackwood, but I left voluntarily. I don't want to go back. She's not in her right mind, the gray-haired woman interjected smoothly. Her father just passed away. She's been living on the streets. She needs medical attention. I need to stay alive. Elena said, her voice rising. My father was murdered, and these people... That's a very serious accusation, the officer said carefully. Ma'am, do you have proof? Elena's face crumbled. Marcus saw her defeat before she spoke. No, not with me. The gray-haired woman moved in like a shark scenting blood. Officer, as you can see, she's making wild claims. We have medical professionals standing by. We just want to help her. The officer looked uncertain. He was young, probably new to the beat. The suit people had all the right credentials, all the right words. Elena looked like exactly what they said, a homeless woman mentally unstable making paranoid accusations. Marcus knew how this ended. He'd seen it before in different circumstances. The powerful protecting themselves, the vulnerable being silenced. Wait, Marcus said. Everyone looked at him. If Ms. Blackwood left voluntarily, and she's not under any legal hold, then she has the right to refuse to go with you. Right, officer? The officer nodded slowly. That's technically correct. Unless there's a court order. The gray-haired woman's expression flickered. We're working on that. But in the meantime, she's a free citizen, Marcus said. She can stay here if she wants, with me. Elena stared at him. The gray-haired woman's eyes narrowed. Mr. Chen, was it, you're making a significant mistake? Wouldn't be my first. The standoff lasted 10 seconds that felt like 10 minutes. Finally, the gray-haired woman reached into her briefcase. For one terrible moment, Marcus's mind flashed to everything that could be in there that wasn't legal documents. She pulled out a business card. Elena, when you're ready to come home, call me. Your father would want you to do the right thing. She set the card on the table. And Mr. Chen, I hope you understand what you're getting involved in. The three of them left, but not before the man with glasses cast one more look at Marcus, a look that promised this wasn't over. The officer lingered. Ma'am, are you sure you're safe? I can take you to a shelter or... She's fine, Marcus said. She'll stay with me tonight. I'll make sure she's okay. The officer looked like he wanted to argue but finally nodded. If you need anything, the station's 3 blocks south." He handed Marcus a card and left. The cafe was dead silent. Joe stared from behind the counter. The 2 other customers, old Mr. Henderson and a college kid with headphones, were frozen in place. Marcus looked down at Elena. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea what you just did." "Yeah," Marcus said, his heart hammering. "I'm starting to figure that out. Come on, let's get you somewhere warm." She stood on unsteady legs. Marcus guided her toward the door, then stopped and looked back at Joe. "Put whatever she wants on my tab, and Joe, if anyone asks, you haven't seen either of us." Joe nodded once, understanding passing between them. Small-town rules. You protect your own. Marcus led Elena out into the rain toward his truck parked at the curb. His hands shook as he unlocked the door. What had he just done? He had a 7-year-old daughter at home. He had a business barely staying afloat. He had no savings, no backup, no safety net. And he'd just made himself a target for people who killed pharmaceutical executives. Elena climbed into the passenger seat, and Marcus saw her notice the booster seat in the back. The Disney princess blanket. The child's drawing taped to the dashboard, Sophie's artwork of their bookstore with Daddy's store, written in crayon at the top. "You have a daughter," Elena said quietly. "Yeah, Sophie. She's 7. Elena's face went white. "Oh, God. I shouldn't be here. I'm putting you in danger, both of you." "Little late for that conversation," Marcus said, starting the engine. "Besides Danger and I are old friends. 3 years ago my wife died because a car company knew their brakes were faulty and covered it up. I spent 6 months trying to get justice, trying to make them pay. You know what I learned?" Elena shook her head. "That the system protects money, not people. That lawyers and judges and officials all play for the same team and it's not ours. That the only way to survive is to choose your battles carefully and fight like hell when you do." He looked at her. "You just became my battle. So if someone really killed your father, if someone's really trying to silence you, then we're going to make sure they fail. Because I'm done letting bad people win." Elena stared at him, and for the first time since he'd seen her in that booth, something other than fear crossed her face. Hope. "I don't even know you," she said. "Name's Marcus Chen. I own Chen's Books 3 blocks from here. I make terrible coffee and pretty good sandwiches. I've got a daughter who asks too many questions and not enough money in the bank. And apparently, I'm the guy who helps women being hunted by corporate assassins. Nice to meet you." Despite everything, Elena laughed, short, sharp, slightly hysterical. "Elena Blackwood. I ran a pharmaceutical company worth $4 billion. My father built it from nothing. 3 weeks ago he died in his sleep. The medical examiner said natural causes. But I found the autopsy report he tried to hide. Arsenic poisoning administered over weeks. And the only people with access to his private medication were his inner circle." Her voice dropped. "People I trusted. People I've known my whole life." Marcus pulled out into traffic, checking his mirrors obsessively. No one following. Yet. Who were those people in the cafe? The woman with gray hair, that was Catherine Marsh. My father's CFO. She's been with the company for 20 years. My father trusted her completely. Elena's hands clenched in her lap. The man with glasses is her assistant, David something. The other woman I've never seen before. And you think Catherine killed your father? I think she knows who did. Maybe she did it herself. I don't know. Elena's voice broke. 3 days after the funeral, she called an emergency board meeting, said I was too emotionally compromised to lead, said the company needed stable leadership during the transition. She had papers drawn up, medical evaluation requirements, temporary removal of authority. I saw what was coming, so I ran. For 3 weeks. I stayed in shelters, cheap motels when I had cash. I didn't use my credit cards because I knew they'd track me. I just walked, slept in bus stations, tried to figure out who I could trust. She looked at him. And then this morning I was so hungry I couldn't think straight anymore. I went into that cafe because I thought maybe I could sit there for a while, get warm. I wasn't even going to order. And then you... She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Marcus drove through the rain-slicked streets, his mind racing. He was a bookstore owner, a single father, a guy who barely made rent most months. What was he supposed to do against a billion-dollar corporation? But then he thought about Sophie, about the way she'd asked him last week why people hurt each other, about how he'd told her that good people stand up for what's right even when it's hard. Time to practice what he preached. Okay, Marcus said. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to my place. You're going to eat something real, take a hot shower, and sleep. Tomorrow we figure out how to prove what happened to your father. I can't stay with you. It's too dangerous. You got somewhere else to go. Silence. That's what I thought. Besides, my place is above the bookstore. It's small, but it's secure. And more importantly, no one knows you're there. He glanced at her. Unless you've got a better option. Elena shook her head slowly. I have a lawyer. Someone my father trusted. But I don't know if I can trust him. I don't know if I can trust anyone. Well, tonight, you can trust me. Tomorrow, we'll work on expanding that list. They drove in silence for a few blocks. Then Elena spoke again, her voice small. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You have a daughter to protect. This could destroy everything you have. Marcus thought about his wife, about the way she'd looked at him in those final days when she knew the company would never be held accountable, when she knew justice would never come. Someone needs to, he said simply. Might as well be me. He pulled into the alley behind his bookstore, parking in his usual spot. The building was old brick with apartments above storefronts. His place was small. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen, barely big enough to turn around in. But it was home. Come on, he said, grabbing the remaining breakfast sandwich from the cafe. Let's get inside before someone sees you. They climbed the exterior stairs to his second-floor apartment. Marcus unlocked the door and ushered Elena inside, checking the alley one more time before closing and locking the door behind them. The apartment was exactly what you'd expect from a single dad, clean enough, cluttered with books. Sophie's drawings covering the refrigerator, toys in a basket by the couch. Elena stood in the middle of the room looking lost. Bathroom's through there, Marcus said, pointing. Towels in the closet. Take your time. I'll make some food. She nodded, moving like a ghost toward the bathroom. Marcus heard the door close, heard the lock click, and then finally heard her sob, one broken sound that she immediately muffled. Marcus stood in his kitchen, hands braced on the counter, and wondered what the hell he'd just gotten himself into. His phone buzzed. Text from his sister Rachel. Still picking up Sophie at 3. She's excited for sleepover. Right. Sophie was supposed to spend the night at Rachel's while Marcus did inventory at the store. He'd forgotten completely. He texted back, yes, thanks. Might be late picking her up tomorrow. Rachel. Everything okay? Marcus stared at the message. Everything was definitely not okay. But he couldn't tell Rachel that. Not yet. Not until he understood what he was dealing with. Fine, just busy. He pocketed his phone and opened the refrigerator. Eggs, cheese, bread. He could make something decent. 20 minutes later, Elena emerged from the bathroom. She'd washed her face, pulled her hair back. She was wearing one of Marcus's old sweatshirts that he'd left hanging on the bathroom door and looked about 10 years younger without the layers of dirt and fear. Better, Marcus asked. Yes, thank you. She sat at the small table. I haven't eaten a real meal in... I can't remember. Marcus set a plate in front of her, scrambled eggs, toast, cheese. Simple, but hot. She ate slowly, methodically, like she was afraid it might disappear. Tell me about your father, Marcus said, sitting across from her with his own plate. Elena's hand paused halfway to her mouth. What do you want to know? Everything. Start at the beginning. So she did. James Blackwood had started his company 30 years ago with a revolutionary idea, pharmaceutical development, that prioritized patient outcomes over profit margins. He'd built Blackwood Pharmaceuticals on the principle that medicine should heal, not just generate revenue. The company had grown slowly but steadily, earning a reputation for integrity in an industry notorious for corruption. Elena had grown up in board meetings and laboratories. She'd earned her MBA, worked her way up from analyst to director to COO. Her father had been grooming her to take over, teaching her everything he knew. 2 months before he died, Elena said, her voice tight, he called me into his office. He looked scared. I'd never seen him scared before. He told me he'd discovered something wrong with one of our flagship products, Project Chrysalis, a new pain medication we were developing. It was supposed to be revolutionary. Non-addictive, highly effective, minimal side effects. What was wrong with it? The trial data was being manipulated. Adverse events were being buried. My father found evidence that at least 12 participants in the clinical trials had suffered cardiac events too fatal. But someone was hiding it, making it look like unrelated incidents. Marcus set down his fork. That's criminal. It's also worth about $2 billion in projected revenue. Project Chrysalis was supposed to launch in 6 months. We already had pre-orders from major hospital systems. Investors were ecstatic. Stock price was at an all-time high. So someone had a lot to lose if your father pulled the plug. Elena nodded. He told me he was going to stop the project, report everything to the FDA. He didn't care what it cost the company. He said he didn't build Blackwood Pharmaceuticals to kill people. When was this? 7 weeks ago. He started his own investigation, very quiet. He didn't trust anyone except me and his personal lawyer. And then... Her voice cracked. Then he got sick. It started with stomach problems. We thought it was stress. But he got worse. Couldn't keep food down. Fatigue, confusion. The doctors couldn't figure it out. And then one morning his housekeeper found him. Heart attack, they said. He was 63 and in perfect health. But heart attack. You didn't believe it. I insisted on an autopsy. The medical examiner said it wasn't necessary, clear cause of death, no signs of foul play. But I pushed. I used every connection I had. Finally, they agreed. She met his eyes. Arsenic. Small doses over time, probably in his food or medication. Classic poisoning symptoms masquerading as illness. Did you go to the police? I tried. I went to the detective handling the case. He said they'd look into it. That was 3 weeks ago. Nothing's happened. No investigation, no interviews. Nothing. And meanwhile, Catherine called that board meeting, presented her case for my removal, said I was unstable, delusional. That grief was making me paranoid. So you ran. What else could I do? Stay and let them commit me. Force me into a psychiatric evaluation where they'd pump me full of drugs and declare me incompetent. Elena's hands shook. I knew if I stayed I'd end up like my father, dead or silenced. So I left. I took what cash I had and ran. Marcus leaned back, processing everything. It was a nightmare corruption murder, a cover-up at the highest levels. And somehow he'd walked right into the middle of it. You said your father had a lawyer he trusted. Nathan Price. He was my father's personal attorney for 15 years. My father called him the night before he died. Told him everything, gave him copies of all the evidence. But when I tried to contact Nathan after the funeral, he wouldn't see me. His office said he was unavailable. I went to his house, he wouldn't answer the door. It was like he was terrified. Or threatened? Elena nodded slowly. That's what I thought too. Marcus stood pacing the small kitchen. This was bigger than he'd imagined. Corporate murder evidence, tampering, witness intimidation. He was way out of his depth. But he'd also spent 5 years as a tech security consultant investigating fraud cases for major corporations. He knew how these systems worked. He knew where to look for cracks. Okay, he said. First things first. You need rest. Real rest. Tomorrow we start digging. We find Nathan Price. We find your father's evidence, and we figure out who killed him." Elena stared at him. "You really think we can do this? I think we have to try." She nodded slowly, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "Thank you, Marcus. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. How about you start by not dying? That'd be payment enough." Despite everything, she smiled. "Deal." Marcus showed her to Sophie's room. His daughter would be at Rachel's tonight anyway. Elena sat on the small bed with its princess sheets and looked around at the toys, the books, the drawings on the walls. "She's lucky to have you," Elena said quietly. "I'm lucky to have her." Marcus closed the door and went to his own room. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain, and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. But he also thought about his wife, about justice, about doing the right thing even when it was hard. Tomorrow, he'd figure out how to take down a billion-dollar corporation. Tonight, he'd settle for keeping them both alive. Marcus woke to the sound of someone screaming. He bolted upright, heart-hammering, and realized it was Elena. He ran to Sophie's room and found her thrashing in the bed, tangled in the princess sheets, still asleep, but fighting some invisible attacker. "Elena." He touched her shoulder gently. "Elena, wake up." Her eyes snapped open, wild and unfocused. For a second, she didn't recognize him, and her hand shot out, catching him across the jaw. Hey, it's me. It's Marcus. You're safe." She blinked, reality flooding back. "Oh God, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "It's okay. Bad dream." She sat up, pulling her knees to her chest. "I saw my father. He was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't hear him. And then Catherine was there holding a syringe, smiling." Her voice shook. "I'm losing my mind." "No, you're not. You're traumatized. There's a difference." Elena looked at him in the dim light filtering through Sophie's curtains. "How do you know?" "Because I had the same nightmares for a year after my wife died. Still do sometimes." Marcus sat on the edge of the bed. "The dreams where you can't save them, where you see it happening but you're frozen, where they're trying to tell you something and you can't quite hear it. What did you do? Learn to live with it. Realize that surviving guilt is part of surviving grief." He stood. "Come on, it's almost 5. Let me make coffee." In the kitchen, Marcus started the pot, while Elena sat at the table looking smaller than she had the night before. Morning light was just starting to creep through the windows, gray and hesitant. "Tell me about your wife," Elena said quietly. Marcus hadn't talked about Jessica in a long time, not in detail, not the real story, but something about Elena's rawness made him want to be honest. Jessica was a civil rights lawyer, public defender. She took cases nobody else wanted because she believed everyone deserved a real defense. He poured 2 mugs of coffee, handed her one. 3 years ago, she was driving home late from a client meeting. Her brakes failed on the highway, went through a guardrail. They said she died on impact. "I'm so sorry." The police investigation found that her brake line had corroded. They ruled it mechanical failure, case closed. But Jessica had just taken her car in for service 2 weeks before. Everything was fine, so I started digging. Marcus sat across from her. Turned out her car model had a known defect. The brake lines were made with substandard materials. The company knew about it for 3 years, but kept it quiet because a recall would cost them billions. They'd settled dozens of cases out of court, always with NDAs. Jessica's was just one more. "You tried to sue them?" "I tried everything. Lawyers, media, regulatory agencies. You know what happened? Nothing. The company had bigger lawyers, better connections. They buried me in paperwork, dragged it out until I couldn't afford to keep fighting. I lost my job because I was spending all my time on the case. Lost our apartment. Nearly lost Sophie to CPS because someone reported me as an unfit parent. I'm pretty sure the company arranged that too." He took a long drink of coffee. "So I gave up. Took the settlement they offered, signed the NDA, and moved here, where I could afford to live and raise my daughter alone. That's why you're helping me. That's why I understand what you're up against. These people have infinite resources and zero conscience. They'll bury you if you let them. Elena wrapped both hands around her mug. Then why fight? If they always win, why risk everything? Because sometimes they don't win. Sometimes someone gets through. Marcus met her eyes. And because if I don't try, I have to look at Sophie and tell her that standing up for what's right doesn't matter. I can't do that. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Elena spoke, her voice stronger than before. My father used to say that evil flourishes when good people decide it's too hard to fight. I never really understood what he meant until now. Yeah? Well, your father sounds like he was a smart man. He was. And he deserved better than to die because he tried to do the right thing. And Marcus stood. Then let's make sure his death meant something. You said your father gave evidence to his lawyer, Nathan Price. We need to find him. He won't talk to me. I already tried. Then we make him talk. Where does he live? Elena pulled out her phone, a burner she'd bought with cash 3 weeks ago. Madison Park. Big house on the water. But Marcus, if Catherine has him scared, then we'll figure out what scares him more. Get dressed. We're going now before anyone knows you're awake. 30 minutes later, they were in Marcus's truck, driving through early morning Seattle traffic. Elena had borrowed more of his clothes, jeans that were too big, a flannel shirt, a baseball cap pulled low. She looked nothing like the polished executive from the news photos. Tell me about Nathan Price, Marcus said as they crossed the 520 bridge. He's 62, Harvard Law. My father met him 30 years ago when Blackwood Pharmaceuticals was just starting. Nathan handled all the legal work, patents, contracts, regulatory filings. He's the only person besides me that my father completely trusted. Family. Wife died 10 years ago. 2 kids, both on the East Coast. Lives alone. Any health issues, financial problems, anything that might make him vulnerable to pressure. Elena thought about it. Not that I know of, but if Catherine wanted to threaten him, she wouldn't need much. She could destroy his reputation, his career. After my father died, Nathan's the one who found the evidence of the arsenic poisoning. He's the one who pushed for the full autopsy. If she knows that, then he's already a target. Marcus pulled off the highway, which means he might be more willing to talk than you think. Fear of Catherine versus fear of being the next victim, that's a choice that focuses the mind. They drove through Madison Park, past expensive homes with manicured lawns and water views. Nathan Price's house was a classic Pacific Northwest contemporary, lots of glass and wood, perched on a slope overlooking Lake Washington. Marcus parked down the street. You sure you want to do this? No, but we're doing it anyway. They walked up the driveway. The house was quiet, curtains drawn. Marcus rang the doorbell. Nothing. He rang again. Still nothing. Nathan, Elena called. It's Elena Blackwood. I know you're in there. I need to talk to you. Silence. Marcus tried the door. Locked. He walked around the side of the house, peering through windows. Elena followed. There, she whispered, pointing. Through a gap in the curtains, they could see someone sitting in the living room. Still. Too still. Marcus's blood ran cold. Call 911. What? Call 911 right now. He ran to the back door and kicked it in. The wood splintered easily. The lock was old. He burst into the house, Elena right behind him. Nathan Price sat in an armchair, his head tilted back, eyes open and staring at nothing. A glass lay on its side on the table beside him. Dark liquid pooled underneath. The smell hit Marcus immediately, bitter almonds, cyanide. No, no, no. Elena gasped, rushing forward. Don't touch anything. Marcus grabbed her arm. Elena, he's gone. He's been gone for hours. She stared at Nathan's body, her face white. They killed him, just like my father. They killed him. We don't know that. Could be suicide. You don't believe that? No, I don't. Marcus looked around the room carefully. Everything was too neat. The glass positioned just so. Nathan's hands folded in his lap. This is staged. Someone wanted it to look like suicide. Elena's phone buzzed. She looked at it and went even paler. What? She showed him the screen. Text from an unknown number. Stop asking questions or your new friend's daughter learns to swim with concrete shoes. You have 24 hours to disappear. Marcus felt ice flood his veins. Sophie. They knew about Sophie. We need to go. Right now. He grabbed Elena's hand and pulled her toward the door. Did you call 911? Not yet. Don't. We were never here. Come on. They ran back to the truck. Marcus's hands shook as he started the engine. Someone had just threatened his daughter. His 7-year-old daughter who was at his sister's house safe, except now she wasn't safe because Marcus had made himself a target. I'm leaving, Elena said. Right now. I'll go back into hiding. They can't threaten Sophie if I'm not. They already know you were with me. Leaving won't change that. Marcus pulled out his phone and called Rachel. Marcus, it's 6 a.m. Rachel, I need you to do something for me and not ask questions. Take Sophie and drive to Mom's cabin in the mountains. Right now. Don't pack, just go. Take back roads. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Silence. Then, Marcus, what's happening? I can't explain. But Sophie's in danger. Please, Rachel, trust me. More silence. Then, okay. We're leaving now. But you owe me a hell of an explanation. I know. I'll call you when it's safe. And Rachel, I love you. Love you too. Be careful. He hung up and looked at Elena. We've got maybe an hour before someone finds Nathan's body and the police start asking questions. We need evidence. Real evidence. Not just your suspicions, something that proves Catherine killed your father. I told you my father gave everything to Nathan, and now Nathan's dead. Then where would Nathan hide it? Think, Elena. He was your father's lawyer for 30 years. He knew he was a target. Where would he keep something that important safe? Elena closed her eyes, thinking. His office. He has a private safe. My father always joked that Nathan was so paranoid he kept backups of his backups. Where's his office? Downtown. Price and Associates. 14th floor of the Columbia Tower. Marcus checked his watch. Too early. No one's there yet. We'd stand out. So what do? Marcus thought fast. We wait. We go in at 9 when the building's busy. Blend in with the crowd. You still have access to his office. I don't know. Maybe. I used to. Then we try. But first I need to make a call. He dialed a number he hadn't used in 3 years. It rang 4 times before someone answered. This better be good. Olivia, it's Marcus Chen. Pause. Marcus, holy shit. I thought you'd disappeared into the woods or something. Close. Listen, I need a favor. A big one. Olivia Park had been his partner when he worked corporate investigations. She'd gone into journalism afterward, made a name exposing pharmaceutical fraud and government corruption. They'd stayed in touch for a while, but after Jessica's death, Marcus had cut ties with everyone from his old life. What kind of favor? Olivia asked, her voice cautious. The kind that might get you a Pulitzer. Or killed. Possibly both. I'm listening. Marcus glanced at Elena. You know about Blackwood Pharmaceuticals, the CEO who died 3 weeks ago. Richard Blackwood. Yeah, big story. His daughter went missing right after. Lots of speculation about foul play, but nothing concrete. I'm sitting next to his daughter right now. And everything they're saying about foul play is true. Her father was murdered. So was his lawyer about 2 hours ago. And the people who did it just threatened to kill my daughter if we don't stop investigating. Long pause. You're serious. Dead serious. No pun intended. Where are you? Seattle. But I can't meet in person yet. It's too dangerous. What I need from you is research. Deep background on Catherine Marsh, CFO of Blackwood Pharmaceuticals. Financial records connections, anything that smells wrong. And I need information on a drug called Project Chrysalis. What am I looking for? Proof that clinical trial data was manipulated, that people died and someone covered it up. Marcus could hear Olivia typing already. And Olivia, be careful. These people have resources, and they're not playing games. When have I ever played it safe? Give me 6 hours. I'll have something for you. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Just don't get killed before I get my story. Marcus hung up and looked at Elena. Okay, we've got backup. Now we need to get into Nathan's office. They spent the next 2 hours at a coffee shop in Capitol Hill planning. Elena drew diagrams of the office layout from memory. Marcus made notes on his phone, cross-referencing building security protocols he remembered from his consulting days. The safe is behind a painting in his private office, Elena said. Abstract thing, lots of blue. Combination lock, not digital. You know the combination? No, but Nathan had this thing about dates. He used significant dates for everything. My father's birthday, his wife's birthday, the day the company was founded. So we try those. If we're wrong, we're screwed. We're already screwed. This just determines how badly. At 8:30, they drove downtown. Marcus found parking 2 blocks from Columbia Tower. They walked separately, Elena 20 paces ahead, both wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky. The lobby was filling with morning commuters. They slipped into an elevator with a crowd of people, and no one gave them a second look. 14th floor. The elevator doors opened onto a reception area. Price and Associates in brass letters on the wall. Empty desk, the receptionist hadn't arrived yet. Quick, Elena whispered. They moved fast down the hallway. Elena tried the door to Nathan's office. Locked. Damn it, she breathed. Marcus pulled a credit card from his wallet and slid it between the door and frame. Old building, old locks. The latch clicked and the door swung open. Nathan's office was exactly what Marcus expected: law books lining the walls, a massive desk, leather chairs, and that abstract painting Elena had mentioned dominating one wall. Watch the door, Marcus said. Elena stood guard while Marcus examined the painting. He lifted it carefully off the wall. Behind it, a wall safe exactly as Elena had described. What's your father's birthday? October 7th, 1962, 10:07:62. Marcus tried the combination. The safe didn't open. Nathan's wife's birthday. March 23rd, 1960. Nothing. When was Blackwood Pharmaceuticals founded? April 15th, 1994. Marcus tried it. Click. The safe swung open. Inside were files, lots of them, and a USB drive taped to the top of the safe with a note. Elena. If you're reading this, I'm sorry. I was too afraid to help you when you needed me. Everything's here. Take it to the FBI. Trust no one else. Nathan. Marcus grabbed everything, stuffing files into his jacket. Elena took the USB drive, her hands shaking. He knew, she whispered. He knew they were coming for him. Marcus, a voice said from the doorway. They spun around. A woman stood there, mid-40s, professional suit, holding a coffee cup. Marcus recognized her from the news. Catherine Marsh. Or should I call you Mr. Chen, the helpful mechanic? Catherine smiled. Did you really think we wouldn't find out who helped Elena? 2 men appeared behind her. Big guys, not lawyers. You didn't have to kill Nathan, Elena said, her voice shaking with rage. Nathan made his choice. He could have walked away. He chose to play hero. Catherine stepped into the office. Just like you're choosing right now. But here's the thing. Heroes in the real world don't win. They just die first. Marcus positioned himself between Catherine and Elena. You're not walking out of here with those files. Actually, I am. Because if I don't, my associates will visit Marcus's sister's house. I believe your daughter is there right now. Pretty little thing, 7 years old, so much life ahead of her. Marcus felt his world tilt. They knew. They knew about Rachel's house. She's not there, he said, praying it was true. Praying Rachel had listened and left immediately. Catherine checked her phone. According to my information, she is. Although, she frowned slightly. Odd. Our surveillance says the house appears empty this morning. Where did your sister take her, Marcus? Relief flooded through him. Rachel had listened. Somewhere you'll never find them. Catherine's smile vanished. Then I suppose we'll have to motivate you differently. She nodded to the men behind her. They moved fast, but Marcus had been expecting it. He grabbed the desk chair and swung it hard, catching the first man in the chest. The man stumbled back into his partner. "Run!" Marcus shouted to Elena. Elena bolted for the door, clutching the USB drive. Catherine tried to grab her, but Elena was faster, adrenaline overriding fear. She slammed into Catherine, sending her sprawling, and ran. Marcus followed, but the second man recovered and caught his arm. Marcus twisted, using the momentum to slam the man into the doorframe. The man's grip loosened, and Marcus broke free. He ran down the hallway, hearing Elena's footsteps ahead. Behind him, Catherine was shouting into her phone. "Lock down the building! Don't let them leave!" They hit the stairwell, taking stairs 3 at a time. 14 floors. Marcus's lungs burned by floor 8. Elena was gasping by floor 5. They burst into the lobby. People stared. A security guard moved toward them. "Fire!" Marcus shouted. "Someone set off the alarms!" It was enough confusion. They pushed through the crowd and out the front doors. Marcus grabbed Elena's hand, and they ran down the street, not stopping until they reached the truck. Marcus's hands shook so badly he could barely get the key in the ignition. He started the engine and pulled into traffic, checking mirrors obsessively. "Did they follow us?" Elena gasped. "Don't know. Don't care. We need to get somewhere safe and look at what we got." "Where?" Marcus thought fast. His apartment wasn't safe. His bookstore wasn't safe. Anywhere in Seattle probably wasn't safe. "I know a place, but we need to ditch this truck first. They probably have the plates by now." He drove to a public parking garage in Ballard, parked on the 4th level, and they abandoned the truck. Marcus called an Uber using a fake account he'd set up years ago for situations exactly like this. Old habits from his consulting days. The Uber dropped them at a storage facility in North Seattle. Marcus paid cash for a short-term unit, and they locked themselves inside with the files. For the next 3 hours they read. Nathan Price had documented everything. Bank records showing Catherine Marsh had embezzled over $15 million across 2 years. Emails between Catherine and a pharmaceutical company in China discussing a buyout that would make her incredibly wealthy. Clinical trial data for Project Chrysalis showing that test subjects had suffered cardiac events at nearly triple the reported rate, data that had been deliberately falsified in official FDA submissions. And most damning medical records showing Richard Blackwood's symptoms were consistent with arsenic poisoning, along with a toxicology report that had never been submitted to authorities. Nathan had even found the source. Richard's daily medication had been tampered with. The person with access to that medication was his live-in nurse, hired 6 months before his death, recommended by Catherine Marsh. "This is it," Elena breathed. "This is everything we need." "It's everything Nathan needed, but he's dead." Marcus looked at her. "The question is, why didn't he use it? Why didn't he go to the FBI himself?" Elena found another document, a letter Nathan had started but never finished. "Dear Elena, I've been a coward. Catherine came to me 2 days after your father's funeral. She knew I had evidence. She told me if I stayed silent, she'd make sure I lived to enjoy my retirement. If I didn't, she'd frame me as complicit in the embezzlement. Said she'd make it look like I was the one who killed Richard for the money. I believed her. I've spent 3 weeks paralyzed by fear, and now I realize—" The letter ended there. "Now I realize it doesn't matter," Elena finished quietly. She was going to kill him anyway. Marcus's phone buzzed. Text from Olivia. "Found something. Call me. Now." He called. "What have you got?" "Marcus, this is bigger than you thought. Catherine Marsh is connected to Viktor Sokolov." "Who?" "Russian oligarch. Owns pharmaceutical companies in Eastern Europe. Known for buying up struggling American pharma companies, stripping their patents, and reselling them in markets with no regulatory oversight. If Sokolov buys Blackwood Pharmaceuticals, he'll have access to Project Chrysalis. He doesn't care if it kills people, he'll just sell it in countries where nobody can stop him. Marcus felt sick. How much is Blackwood worth? Current market cap $4 billion. But if there's a scandal, say the CEO's daughter has a mental breakdown and makes wild accusations, or the COO is revealed to be embezzling funds, the stock tanks. Maybe drops to $1 billion. Sokolov could buy the company for nothing and own those patents. Catherine's not just covering up murder. She's deliberately destroying the company so she can sell it cheap. And making a fortune in the process. I found offshore accounts in her name. She's already received $50 million from Sokolov as a down payment. Once the sale goes through, she gets another $200 million. Marcus looked at Elena. Her face had gone white. My father built that company from nothing. He helped people. And she's selling it to someone who'll use it to kill people for profit. There's more, Olivia said. I contacted an FBI agent I trust, Special Agent Torres, White-Collar Crime Division. I told him I had a source with evidence of pharmaceutical fraud and murder he wants to meet. Can we trust him? I've known Torres for 5 years. If anyone can help, it's him. But Marcus, you need to be careful. If Catherine knows you're going to the FBI, she'll kill us before we can testify. Yeah, I figured that part out. So what do you want to do? Marcus looked at all the evidence spread around them. Nathan's careful documentation, his father's notes, the proof that could bring Catherine down and save Blackwood Pharmaceuticals. Set up the meeting, tomorrow, public place, and Olivia, publish what you've got tonight, all of it. If something happens to us, at least the story gets out. You sure? No, but we're out of options. He hung up and looked at Elena. You ready for this? No. But like you said, we're doing it anyway. They stayed in the storage unit until dark, reviewing evidence, preparing what they'd tell the FBI. Marcus ordered food delivered to the facility. They ate cold pizza sitting on the concrete floor, and somehow it felt like the most normal thing they'd done in days. Tell me about Sophie, Elena said. Marcus smiled despite everything. She's 7 going on 40, asks a million questions, wants to know why everything works the way it does. She's obsessed with space right now, wants to be an astronaut. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. After Jessica died, I didn't know if I could do it. Single parent, no money, no support system. But Sophie, his voice caught. She saved me. Gave me a reason to keep going when I wanted to give up. That's why you're helping me, because of her. No, I'm helping you because it's the right thing to do, but I'm fighting this hard because I want Sophie to grow up in a world where people like Catherine don't win. Where doing the right thing matters. Elena was quiet for a moment. Your wife would be proud of you. I hope so. Some days I'm not sure. They sat in silence, two people who'd lost everything, who'd been beaten down by systems designed to protect the powerful, who were making one last desperate stand because the alternative was giving up entirely. Marcus, Elena said finally. Thank you. For everything. For believing me when no one else would. For risking your life. For... Don't. We're not dead yet. Thank me when this is over. She smiled. Deal. Marcus's phone buzzed. Text from Olivia. Article goes live in 1 hour. Agent Torres will meet you tomorrow 10 a.m., Pike Place Market. I'll be there too. Stay safe. He showed Elena the message. This is it. Tomorrow we end this. Or tomorrow we die trying. That too. They left the storage facility after midnight, taking separate Ubers to a cheap motel near the airport. Marcus paid cash for one room, and they locked themselves inside. Elena took the bed. Marcus took the floor with a spare blanket. Neither of them expected to sleep, but exhaustion finally won. Marcus woke at 6 to find Elena already awake, sitting by the window watching the sunrise. Couldn't sleep, he asked. Kept thinking about my father, about Nathan, about all the people who died because of that drug. She turned to him. What if we fail? What if the FBI doesn't believe us? What if Catherine gets away with it? Then we tried. That's more than most people do. Is that enough? Marcus thought about it. It has to be. His phone rang. Rachel. Sophie's asking for you. His sister said without preamble. I told her you're on a work trip, but she's smart. She knows something's wrong. Can I talk to her? Hold on. Static. Then Sophie's voice small and scared. Daddy? Marcus's chest constricted. Hey, sweetheart. How's the adventure with Aunt Rachel? It's okay. But Daddy, when are you coming home? I miss you. I miss you too, baby. So much. But I need you to be brave for me. Okay. Stay with Aunt Rachel for a couple more days. I'll come get you as soon as I can. Are you in trouble? Marcus closed his eyes. 7 years old, and she could read him perfectly. I'm helping someone who needs help, just like we talked about. Remember, being brave means doing the right thing even when you're scared. That's right, and I'm very scared right now, but I'm doing it anyway. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Sophie, more than anything. He hung up and found Elena watching him, tears in her eyes. She sounds amazing, Elena said. She is. Marcus stood pocketing his phone. Come on. We've got 3 hours before we meet the FBI. Let's make sure we're ready to tell them everything. They spent the morning organizing evidence, creating a timeline, preparing to fight back against people who'd already killed twice and would kill again if it meant protecting their fortune. At 9:30, they left for Pike Place Market, 2 people with nothing left to lose, walking into a meeting that would either save them or end them. And somewhere in Seattle, Catherine Marsh was making her own preparations, because she'd built an empire on other people's deaths, and she wasn't about to let 2 idealistic fools destroy it. Pike Place Market was already crowded by 9:45. Tourists snapping photos, locals buying flowers, the smell of fresh fish and coffee mixing in the morning air. Marcus scanned faces in the crowd, looking for threats. Everyone looked suspicious. The man in the Seahawks jersey. The woman with the stroller. The teenagers taking selfies. Elena stayed close to the USB drive, in her jacket pocket. Nathan's files in a backpack Marcus carried. They'd made copies of everything, stashed them in 3 different locations, but the originals felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. There, Elena said quietly. A woman stood near the fish market, mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, wearing jeans and a leather jacket. She wasn't looking at fish. She was looking at them. That's Olivia, Marcus said. Come on. They approached carefully. Olivia turned when they got close, her expression tight. Marcus, you look like hell. Thanks. You always knew how to make a guy feel good. Elena Blackwood, I presume. Olivia extended her hand. Elena shook it. Thank you for doing this, for believing us. I haven't published yet. Not until I know you're both safe and the FBI has the evidence. Where's Torres? Right here. A man emerged from the crowd. Late 40s, salt and pepper hair, tired eyes that had seen too much. He wore a suit that had seen better days and carried a coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping him alive. Special Agent Miguel Torres, FBI. He showed his credentials. Ms. Park vouches for you, which is the only reason I'm here. You've got 5 minutes to convince me this isn't a waste of my time. My father was murdered, Elena said without preamble. Catherine Marsh, CFO of Blackwood Pharmaceuticals, poisoned him with arsenic because he discovered she was embezzling millions and manipulating drug trial data. Yesterday she killed his lawyer Nathan Price, made it look like suicide. We have evidence of all of it. Torres sipped his coffee, expression neutral. That's a serious accusation. You have proof. Marcus handed him the backpack. Financial records showing $15 million in embezzled funds. Emails between Catherine and a Russian pharmaceutical magnate planning to buy Blackwood for pennies on the dollar. Clinical trial data proving Project Chrysalis causes fatal cardiac events. Medical records and toxicology reports showing Richard Blackwood was poisoned, and a letter from Nathan Price documenting Catherine's threats. Torres opened the backpack, flipped through a few files. His expression didn't change, but his jaw tightened. Where did you get this? Nathan Price's personal safe. He collected it before Catherine killed him. You broke into a dead man's office and stole evidence. We retrieved evidence that would have disappeared if we hadn't, Marcus said. You want to arrest us for that, go ahead, but read the files first. Torres pulled out more documents, scanning them quickly. His coffee sat forgotten on a nearby ledge. After 2 minutes of silence, he looked up. If this is real, we're talking multiple federal charges. Murder, fraud, RICO violations, FDA tampering. He focused on Elena. Your father built that company. You're saying his CFO destroyed it for money. For $250 million. And she doesn't care how many people die from that drug once she sells it to Viktor Sokolov. Torres pulled out his phone. I need to call my supervisor. Get a team down here. We'll need you both to come in, give formal statements. No. Elena's voice was sharp. Catherine has people everywhere. Police, regulatory agencies, judges. My father told me that. How do we know your supervisor isn't on her payroll? Because I've been investigating pharmaceutical fraud for 15 years, and I'm very good at knowing who's dirty. Torres's voice was harder now. But if you want protection, if you want justice for your father, you have to trust the system. The system failed my father. It failed Nathan Price. It failed Marcus's wife 3 years ago when a car company covered up defective brakes. Elena stepped closer to Torres. The only system that works is the one where we expose everything publicly. That's why we gave Olivia the story. It publishes whether you help us or not. Torres looked at Olivia. You planning to run this? In about 2 hours, unless you give me a reason not to. Publishing an active investigation compromises evidence. You could tank the whole case. Or I could make sure the truth gets out before someone buries it. Olivia crossed her arms. Your choice, Agent Torres. Work with us or watch us do this without you. Torres was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone again and made a call. Sarah. It's Torres. I need you to run a background check on Catherine Marsh, CFO of Blackwood Pharmaceuticals. Everything, financials, communications, travel records. And I need it yesterday. He listened. I don't care what you have to do. This is priority 1. He hung up and looked at them. You've got my attention. But we do this my way. That means proper chain of custody, formal statements, everything by the book. Otherwise, a good defense attorney tears it apart in court. Fine, Marcus said. But we do it somewhere public, and we don't go anywhere until Olivia's story is live. Deal. They moved to a coffee shop across from the market. Torres ordered them to a corner booth while he made more calls. Olivia sat with her laptop open, typing furiously. Elena stared at her hands. Marcus watched the door. You okay? He asked Elena quietly. No, but I will be. She looked at him. Thank you. For everything. I know you're risking. The front window exploded. Glass shattered inward. People screamed. Marcus grabbed Elena and pulled her to the floor. More glass breaking, shouting. Then he heard it, car engines, multiple vehicles screeching to a stop outside. Out the back! Torres yelled, drawing his weapon. They ran. The coffee shop erupted into chaos, customers diving for cover, baristas screaming. Marcus pushed Elena ahead of him, Olivia right behind. Torres covered their rear. They burst through the kitchen past stunned cooks and out the back door into an alley. 2 black SUVs blocked one end. 4 men in tactical gear poured out. FBI, drop your weapons, Torres shouted. The men didn't drop anything. They raised their guns. Torres grabbed Marcus and Elena, pulling them behind a dumpster. Olivia pressed herself against the wall. Gunfire erupted. Bullets pinged off metal. Marcus's ears rang. Are those Catherine's people? Elena gasped. Worse, Torres said grimly. Those are professional contractors. Military-grade weapons. Someone paid serious money. What do? We survive. Torres returned fire. 3 shots, precise and controlled. One of the men went down. When I say run, you run. Back toward the market. Lose yourselves in the crowd. What about you? I'll hold them off. Go. We can't just... You have evidence that brings down a murderer. I have a badge and a gun. We each do our job. Now run." Marcus grabbed Elena's hand. Olivia was already moving. They sprinted back toward the street, staying low. More gunfire behind them, Torres shouting into his phone. They reached the corner, and Marcus risked a look back. Torres was down, not moving. "No." Marcus started to turn back. Olivia grabbed his arm. "He bought us time. Don't waste it." They ran into Pike Place Market. The crowd had scattered at the sound of gunfire, but there were still people everywhere, confused, scared, pulling out phones to record. Marcus pushed through, pulling Elena behind him. He could hear shouting behind them. The contractors were coming. "This way," Olivia said, leading them down a side corridor. They ducked into a souvenir shop. The owner, a woman in her 60s, stared at them. "Please," Elena gasped. "People are trying to kill us." The woman's eyes widened. She pointed to a back room. "Go. There's a door to the lower level." They ran through, downstairs, into the underbelly of Pike Place Market storage rooms, maintenance corridors, the guts of the historic building. Marcus heard footsteps above them, shouting. "We need to split up," Olivia said. "They're tracking all of us. If we separate, we have a better chance." "No way," Marcus said. "We stay together." "Marcus, think. Elena has the evidence. You have the backup. I have the story. If they get all three of us, Catherine wins." Olivia looked at him with the same intensity she'd had when they worked together. "You know I'm right." He did. He hated it, but he did. "Where do we meet?" "The storage facility. Tonight, 9 p.m. Olivia looked at Elena. "Stay alive. Your father deserves justice." "So does yours," Elena said to Marcus. Olivia took off running one direction. Marcus and Elena went the other, deeper into the maze of corridors. They could hear voices above them. Someone was coordinating the search. Professional. Organized. They found a service elevator, and Marcus hit the button. Nothing happened. Come on," he muttered. Footsteps getting closer. The elevator dinged. Doors opened. They jumped inside. Marcus hit the button for the lowest level. The doors closed just as two men rounded the corner. The elevator descended. Elena leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "Torres is dead because of us." "Torres is dead because Catherine Marsh is a murderer. Don't confuse the two." "How many more people have to die before this is over?" Marcus didn't have an answer. The elevator stopped. They stepped out into a parking garage. Marcus looked around, getting his bearings. They were 2 levels below street access. Cars everywhere, but no people. "We need a vehicle," Marcus said. "I'm not stealing a car." "You got a better idea." Before Elena could answer, Marcus's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. "Hello, Marcus." Catherine Marsh's voice. Calm, almost friendly. "You're persistent, I'll give you that. Most people would have given up by now. Most people aren't fighting a murderer." Murderer. Such an ugly word. I prefer pragmatist. Catherine paused. "I'm calling to make you an offer. A one-time deal. Walk away now. Take Elena with you. Disappear. I'll wire you $10 million by end of day. Live quietly somewhere. Raise your daughter. Forget any of this happened." You killed Elena's father. Richard Blackwood was going to destroy everything he built because of misplaced idealism. I saved his legacy. By selling it to a Russian oligarch who'll use it to kill people. By ensuring the company survives. Richard couldn't see past his outdated ethics. The pharmaceutical industry has changed. If Blackwood Pharmaceuticals didn't adapt, it would have died anyway. I just accelerated the inevitable. Marcus looked at Elena. She was listening, her face white with rage. "And Nathan Price?" Marcus asked. "He was part of the inevitable too." Nathan was a coward who couldn't make hard choices. He had evidence that could hurt everyone. He had to go. Like Agent Torres. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The FBI agent you just had shot in an alley." Marcus, I haven't shot anyone. I'm sitting in my office working. I have 12 witnesses who'll testify to that. Whatever happened to that agent, and I'm very sorry to hear about it, has nothing to do with me. Marcus's blood ran cold. She'd insulated herself perfectly. Contractors who couldn't be traced back to her. Alibis for every crime. She'd thought of everything. 10 million, Catherine said again. Final offer, or I'll be forced to take more aggressive measures. You mean like threatening my daughter? I would never harm a child, Marcus. But children need their parents. And accidents happen. Car crashes, house fires, gas leaks. Seattle's a dangerous city. You come near my family, then take the money and disappear. You fought well. You've been brave, but you've lost. The FBI agent is dead. The evidence you have is inadmissible because you stole it. And even if you go public, I have the best lawyers money can buy. This ends with you and Elena dead or wealthy. Choose. Marcus hung up. Elena stared at him. What did she say? She offered us $10 million to walk away. And you said no. I said no. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Marcus, you should take it. You have Sophie. You don't owe me. Yes, I do. I owe you the same thing someone owed me 3 years ago and didn't deliver. I owe you justice, and I'm not walking away. A car engine roared. They turned. One of the black SUVs pulled into the garage tires, squealing. 2 more behind it. Run! Marcus shouted. They ran between cars. The SUV split up, trying to box them in. Marcus pulled Elena down between 2 vehicles. They crawled on hands and knees, staying low. He could hear car doors opening, men spreading out. There's no way out, Elena whispered. They have all the exits covered. Marcus looked around desperately. Then he saw it, a maintenance stairwell half hidden behind a concrete pillar. He pointed. Elena nodded. They crawled toward it. 50 feet, 40, 30. A man walked past, assault rifle ready. They froze. He kept walking. 20 feet, 10. They reached the stairwell door. Marcus tried it. Locked. Damn it, he breathed. Elena pulled a hairpin from her pocket. She'd been carrying it since she went on the run. My father taught me, said a woman should know how to pick a lock. Your father was a wise man. She worked the lock hands, shaking. 30 seconds. A minute. The tumbler clicked. The door opened. They slipped through and locked it behind them. The stairwell was narrow, dimly lit. They climbed. Up and up. Marcus counted floors. 3, 4, 5. His lungs burned. Elena was gasping, but didn't stop. They reached street level. Marcus pushed open the door carefully. They were on a side street half a block from Pike Place. Police cars everywhere. Ambulances, yellow tape. A body on the ground covered with a sheet. Torres. Marcus felt sick. A good man trying to do the right thing, dead because Marcus had asked for help. We can't stop, Elena said quietly. He died to give us a chance. We have to use it. They walked away from the chaos, trying to look normal. Just 2 people out for a morning walk. Marcus's phone buzzed. Text from Olivia. I'm safe. Story publishing in 15 minutes. Get somewhere secure. They found a bus stop and got on the next bus that came, not caring where it went. They sat in the back watching the city pass by. No one looked at them. No one cared. Just another couple on the 49 bus on a Wednesday morning. Marcus's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Hey, Elena said softly. We're alive. We're still fighting. Torres isn't. Nathan isn't. Your father isn't. I know, and I'll carry that forever. But Marcus, we can't quit now. If we quit, they died for nothing. Marcus looked at her. This woman who'd been broken and terrified 3 days ago in a cafe, who'd slept on his couch wrapped in a princess blanket, who'd had everything taken from her. And she was still fighting. You're stronger than you think, he said. I learned from a good teacher. They rode the bus for an hour, transferring twice, making sure no one followed. Finally, they got off in a neighborhood Marcus didn't recognize. Residential. Quiet. They found a library and went inside. Elena pulled out her phone, the burner she'd been using. She accessed the internet and searched for news. "There?" she whispered. Olivia's article, published 10 minutes ago. The headline read, "Blackwood Pharmaceuticals CFO accused of murder fraud in whistleblower allegations." The article laid out everything. Richard Blackwood's poisoning, Catherine Marsh's embezzlement, the manipulation of clinical trial data, Viktor Sokolov's planned buyout, Nathan Price's suspicious suicide, and at the end a statement from Elena Blackwood. "I'm in hiding because the people who killed my father want to silence me. But I won't be silent. This company was built on integrity, and I will not let it be destroyed by greed." Marcus read the article twice. It was devastating, specific, sourced. "It's working," Elena said, scrolling through social media. "People are sharing it. News outlets are picking it up. The FBI just issued a statement saying they're opening an investigation. Catherine will fight back. She'll call it lies, fake news, a mentally unstable woman making accusations. Let her. The evidence is out there now. She can't kill all of us." Marcus's phone rang. Rachel. "Marcus, what the hell is going on? You're on the news. There's an article saying you're wanted for questioning in a shooting at Pike Place Market." "I didn't shoot anyone. But Rachel, it's not safe. You need to keep Sophie away from your house. Stay at Mom's cabin." "We are at the cabin. Sophie keeps asking when you're coming. What do I tell her?" Marcus closed his eyes. "Tell her I love her. Tell her I'm fighting bad people, and I'll come get her as soon as I can." "Marcus, you're scaring me." "I know, but I promise you this ends soon, one way or another." He hung up and looked at Elena. "Your turn. Who do you need to call?" Elena pulled up a number she'd been avoiding for 3 weeks. Her board member, Margaret Yao. The one person besides Nathan that her father had trusted. "Margaret, it's Elena." Crying on the other end. "Oh my God, Elena. Where are you? Are you safe?" "I'm alive. That's all that matters. Margaret, I need you to call an emergency board meeting. Tonight. I'm coming back." "Elena, that's not. Catherine has been telling everyone you're mentally unstable. She has doctors ready to testify. If you come back, she'll have you committed." "Not if the board votes her out first. You've seen the article. You know what she's done." "The article has allegations. Catherine's already called her lawyers. She's threatening to sue for defamation." "Then let her sue. But she can't sue from a jail cell." Elena's voice was steel. "My father built that company. She stole it, and I'm taking it back. Are you with me?" Silence. Then, "Yes, I'm with you. But Elena, you need protection. Real protection." "Working on it. Just get me that board meeting. 8 p.m. I'll be there." She hung up and looked at Marcus. "I'm going back. Tonight. That's suicide. Catherine will be waiting. I don't care. I can't keep running. This ends now." Marcus understood. He'd felt the same way 3 years ago when he'd signed the NDA and taken the settlement. The moment when you decide you can't carry the weight anymore. The moment when you either fight or surrender completely. "Okay," he said. "Then we go in smart. We need leverage. Something that protects you even if Catherine tries something." "Like what?" Marcus thought. "We go live, broadcast the whole meeting. Catherine can't have you killed if the world is watching. She'll block it. She controls building security. Then we get someone on the inside." Marcus pulled out his phone and called Olivia. "We need one more favor." 4 hours later, they were in the back of Olivia's car driving toward Blackwood Pharmaceuticals headquarters. Olivia had spent the afternoon coordinating with other journalists, setting up a live stream that would broadcast from multiple phones inside the building. Margaret had smuggled 3 reporters in as legal consultants. They were positioned in the boardroom, ready to go live the moment Elena walked in. "This is insane." Olivia said, not for the first time. Yeah, Marcus agreed. But it's the right kind of insane. Elena sat beside him wearing a suit Margaret had provided. She looked like the executive from the news photos again. Confident, professional, ready. You don't have to come in with me, she said to Marcus. We've been through this. Yes, I do. Marcus, Sophie needs you. Sophie needs to learn that sometimes you have to fight for what's right even when it's hard. I can't teach her that if I walk away now. Elena took his hand. Thank you for everything. Thank you for not staying silent. They pulled up to the building, 50 stories of glass and steel, Blackwood Pharmaceuticals etched above the entrance. Elena's father had stood here 30 years ago with a dream and 5 employees. Now it was an empire, one that Catherine Marsh had tried to steal. They walked through the front doors together. Security recognized Elena immediately. One guard reached for his radio. Don't, Elena said firmly. I'm here for a board meeting. I'm a member of this board and a major shareholder. You can't stop me. The guard hesitated, then stepped aside. They took the elevator to the executive floor. The doors opened onto a reception area. Catherine's assistant sat at the desk. Her eyes widened. Ms. Blackwood, I didn't know you were... Tell Catherine I'm here. Tell her it's time to face what she's done. They walked past the assistant toward the boardroom. Marcus could see people inside, 12 board members, all looking tense. Margaret saw them and stood. Others turned. And at the head of the table, Catherine Marsh sat calmly, a slight smile on her face. Elena, she said, how wonderful. We've been so worried. Elena walked into the room. Marcus stayed at the door with Olivia. The journalists had their phones out, already streaming. You killed my father, Elena said clearly. You poisoned him, stole from him, and destroyed everything he built. And now I'm here to make sure you pay for it. Catherine's smile never wavered. Elena, you're unwell. Everyone here knows it. You've been making wild accusations, living on the streets, clearly suffering from a breakdown. We want to help you. I don't need help. I need justice. Elena pulled out the USB drive and set it on the table. This contains evidence of your embezzlement. $15 million stolen over 2 years. Evidence of your manipulation of clinical trial data for Project Chrysalis. Evidence that you arranged my father's murder and Nathan Price's murder. And evidence that you're selling this company to Viktor Sokolov for $250 million. The room erupted, board members shouting questions. Catherine's face finally showed emotion-cold fury. That evidence is inadmissible. It was stolen from Nathan Price's office. Then explain it in court, Elena said. Because the FBI is already investigating. Agent Torres died trying to protect me from your contractors. But his supervisor has opened a full investigation. They're going through your financials right now. And in about 30 seconds, every major news outlet in the country is going to broadcast this conversation live. Catherine stood slowly. You think you've won. You think exposing me publicly changes anything. But Elena, I've spent 20 years building connections. I have judges, prosecutors, police chiefs all on speed dial. Even if some of what you're saying is true, I'll never see the inside of a cell. Maybe not, Elena said. But you'll lose this company. The board will vote you out. Your reputation will be destroyed. Sokolov will walk away. And my father's legacy will survive. Catherine's smile returned. Your father was weak. He let sentiment cloud his judgment. He was going to destroy this company's future because he was too afraid to make hard choices. He was going to save lives. That's not weakness, that's integrity. Integrity doesn't pay the bills. Neither does prison. The door burst open. FBI agents poured in, led by a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and a badge. Catherine Marsh, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder wire fraud and violations of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. She read Miranda rights while agents cuffed Catherine's hands behind her back. Catherine looked at Elena one last time. This isn't over. Yes, Elena said quietly. It is. They led Catherine out. The boardroom sat in stunned silence. Then Margaret stood and started clapping. Others joined. Within seconds, the entire room was applauding. Elena stood there, tears streaming down her face, and Marcus realized she wasn't crying from sadness. She was crying from relief. The kind of relief that comes when you've carried an impossible weight for so long that you forgot what it felt like to be free. He walked over to her. You did it. We did it. Outside, news crews had gathered. Olivia was already giving interviews. The story was everywhere. Catherine Marsh arrested Elena Blackwood, vindicated Blackwood Pharmaceuticals, saved. Marcus's phone rang. Rachel. Turn on the news. You're everywhere. What the hell happened? We won. I'll explain everything later. But Rachel, I need to come get Sophie. I need to see her. She's right here. Hold on. Static. Then Sophie's voice. Daddy, you're on TV? Are you famous? Marcus laughed, the sound halfway to a sob. No, sweetheart. I'm just your dad, and I'm coming home. I promise. Did you beat the bad guys? Yeah, baby. We beat the bad guys. I knew you would. You're the bravest person I know. Marcus hung up and looked at Elena. She was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Go, she said. Go get your daughter. I'll handle things here. You sure? I'm sure. You gave me my life back, Marcus. Now go live yours. He hugged her quick and fierce. Then he and Olivia walked out of the building together, leaving Elena to reclaim her father's company and dismantle everything Catherine had built. Hell of a story, Olivia said as they reached the street. Yeah, make sure you tell it right. Always do. Marcus got in his truck. It had been towed from the parking garage, but he'd retrieved it and drove north toward the mountains, toward his daughter, toward the life he'd almost lost by choosing to help a stranger in a cafe 3 days ago. He'd gambled everything, and somehow, impossibly, he'd won. The drive took 3 hours. Marcus pushed the speed limit the entire way, his hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Every mile that separated him from Sophie felt like a physical weight pressing on his chest. He'd been away for 3 days. 3 days that felt like 3 years. His phone kept buzzing. News outlets wanting interviews, lawyers calling on Elena's behalf, even his old colleagues from New York reaching out after seeing the news. He ignored all of it. Nothing mattered except getting to his daughter. The cabin sat at the end of a dirt road surrounded by pine trees. His mother had bought it 20 years ago as a weekend retreat, and it had become the family's emergency sanctuary. Marcus pulled up and saw Sophie on the porch before he'd even turned off the engine. She ran down the steps. Daddy! Marcus barely got the door open before she launched herself at him. He caught her lifting her off the ground and held her so tight he worried he might hurt her. But he couldn't let go. Not yet. I missed you so much, Sophie said into his neck. I was so scared. I know, baby. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Rachel stood on the porch, arms crossed, her expression caught between relief and fury. Inside. Now. We need to talk. Marcus carried Sophie into the cabin. His mother was there too, looking older than he remembered. The last few days had aged all of them. Sophie, Rachel said gently, why don't you show Grandma that puzzle you've been working on? But I want to stay with Daddy. I'll be right here, Marcus promised. I'm not going anywhere. Sophie hesitated, then went to the dining table where a 1,000-piece puzzle lay half-finished. Marcus's mother followed, but he could see her watching him. Rachel pulled him into the kitchen and shut the door. What the hell were you thinking? Her voice was low, but fierce. I watched the news, Marcus. FBI agents shot. A dead lawyer. Corporate assassins hunting you through Pike Place Market. You brought that into our lives. Into Sophie's life. I know. That's it. You know, Marcus, Sophie spent 2 days asking me if you were going to die. She had nightmares. She wet the bed for the first time in 3 years because she was so terrified. And you say you know. Marcus leaned against the counter, exhaustion finally catching up. What did you want me to do? Rachel. Let them kill Elena. Walk away while a murderer got away with it. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted you to do, because Sophie needs her father more than some stranger needs a hero. That stranger was starving to death in a cafe. She'd been on the streets for 3 weeks running from people who killed her father. What kind of example would I set for Sophie if I just let that happen? The example of a father who stays alive. Rachel's voice rose. The example of a father who doesn't risk his life playing detective against billion-dollar corporations. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. You chose to get involved. You chose to put yourself in danger. You chose Elena Blackwood over your own daughter. The words hit like a physical blow. Marcus stared at his sister. That's not fair. Isn't it? You've been gone for 3 days. 3 days where Sophie didn't know if you were coming back, where I had to lie to her and tell her everything was fine while watching the news show your face next to headlines about murder investigations. Rachel's eyes were wet. You already lost Jessica. I thought you learned something from that. But apparently not. What I learned is that standing up matters, that fighting back matters. Jessica died because a company chose profit over safety and nobody stopped them. I had a chance to stop Catherine Marsh, to make sure her drug didn't kill more people. And yes, I took that chance. At what cost? At whatever cost it took. They stood in silence. Then Rachel wiped her eyes. Sophie can't go through this again, Marcus. She can't. She won't have to. It's over. Catherine's arrested. The company's safe. We won. For now. But what about next time? What about the next person who needs help? The next injustice you can't ignore? Marcus didn't have an answer because they both knew she was right. He would do it again if he had to. He couldn't not. Rachel sighed. I love you. You know that. But I also think you're going to get yourself killed, and Sophie's going to grow up without a father. And that terrifies me. I'm not going to die. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll always come back to her. Always. Rachel opened the door. Then go be with your daughter, because she's been waiting 3 days to hear you say that. Marcus walked back to the dining room. Sophie looked up from the puzzle, and the relief on her face broke something inside him. Can we go home now? She asked. Yes, sweetheart. Let's go home. They said goodbye to Rachel and his mother. The drive back to Seattle was quieter. Sophie fell asleep in the back seat, her stuffed rabbit clutched in her arms. Marcus watched her in the rearview mirror and felt the full weight of what he'd risked. Rachel was right. He'd gambled with the most important thing in his life. But he'd also won. And maybe that was worth something. His phone rang. Elena. Hey, he answered quietly. How are you holding up? I've been better. The board confirmed me as CEO. We're shutting down Project Chrysalis permanently. Full recall of all trial materials. We're also launching an internal investigation to find anyone else who knew what Catherine was doing. That's good. That's really good. The FBI found Viktor Sokolov's payments. Catherine received $50 million in offshore accounts. They're working to extradite him from Russia, but that'll take time, maybe years. But he won't get the company. No, he won't. Elena paused. Marcus, I wanted to say thank you again. I know what you risked. Your family, your safety, everything. I'll never be able to repay that. You don't need to repay anything. Just make sure your father's company does what it was meant to do. Help people. That's payment enough. I will. I promise. Another pause. Will I see you again? Marcus looked at Sophie sleeping peacefully in the mirror. I don't know. I need to focus on my daughter right now. Make sure she knows she's my priority. Of course. I understand. But Marcus, if you ever need anything at all, you call me. Okay. Okay? They hung up. Marcus drove the rest of the way home in silence, thinking about choices and consequences, and the price of doing the right thing. They reached the apartment at 8 p.m. Marcus carried Sophie upstairs, got her into bed, and lay down beside her until she fell back asleep. Then he sat in his living room, staring at the wall, trying to process everything that had happened. His phone buzzed. Text from Olivia. "My article's been nominated for awards. You're going to be famous whether you like it or not." He didn't respond. Another text, this one from a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Chen, this is Margaret Yao from Blackwood Pharmaceuticals. Elena told me what you did. The board would like to offer you a position as our Director of Ethics and Compliance. 6-figure salary, full benefits. Please consider it." Marcus deleted the message. He didn't want their money. He didn't want their gratitude. He just wanted his normal life back. But 3 days later, normal proved impossible. The first reporter showed up at the bookstore on Friday morning. Then 2 more in the afternoon. By Saturday, Marcus had to close early because customers couldn't get inside past the news crews wanting interviews. "Mr. Chen, how does it feel to take down a billion-dollar corporation? Is it true you broke into a crime scene? What made you decide to risk everything for a stranger?" Marcus stopped answering. He pulled Sophie out of school for a week because reporters were camped outside. He disconnected the store phone because it rang constantly. His quiet life had become a circus, and he hated every second of it. On Tuesday, Elena showed up at the bookstore after closing. Marcus let her in through the back door. She looked different. Professional suit, hairstyled, makeup, perfect. The haunted woman from the cafe was gone. This was CEO Elena Blackwood, confident and composed. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "About the reporters. I tried to redirect them, but the story's too big. Everyone wants to talk to the mechanic who became a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm a bookstore owner who gave someone a sandwich. That's all. You saved my life, Marcus. You saved my father's company. You stopped a drug that would have killed hundreds of people. That's not nothing. It's also not my job. My job is running this store and raising my daughter. And right now I can't do either because your story made me a target for every reporter and conspiracy theorist in the country." Elena flinched. "What can I do? How can I fix this?" "You can't. The story's out there. I just have to wait for people to forget." "They won't forget. Not for a long time." Elena sat on one of the reading chairs Marcus kept for customers. "But I might be able to help. The board's offering you that compliance position, 6 figures. You could sell the bookstore, move somewhere quieter, start fresh where nobody knows your face. I like my bookstore, and I like Seattle. I'm not running away because things got complicated." "Then let me help another way. Security for Sophie, someone to watch the store. Legal support if any of this comes back on you." "I don't need—" "Yes, you do." Elena's voice was firm. "Marcus Catherine might be in jail, but she has lawyers. Good ones. They're already trying to suppress evidence, claim illegal search and seizure, arguing that everything we found in Nathan's office is inadmissible. If they succeed, she could walk. And if she walks, she'll come after everyone who put her there." Marcus felt cold. "You think she'd actually—" "I think she killed 2 people and tried to kill us. Yes, I think she'd come after us again." Elena leaned forward. "That's why I'm not taking chances. I've hired private security. My apartment has cameras, guards, the works. And I'm asking you to do the same." "I can't afford that." "You don't have to. Blackwood Pharmaceuticals will cover it. Consider it hazard pay for the hell we put you through." Marcus wanted to say no. He wanted to maintain his independence, his dignity. But he also thought about Sophie sleeping upstairs, about how easy it would be for someone to get to her if they really wanted to. "Okay," he said finally. "But nothing obvious. No guards standing around, just cameras and monitoring. I don't want Sophie to feel like she's living in a prison." "Done. I'll have a team here tomorrow to install everything." Elena stood. "And Marcus, I meant what I said. If you change your mind about the job offer, it's always open. Your skills, your integrity. Blackwood Pharmaceuticals needs people like you." What Blackwood Pharmaceuticals needs is to make sure another Catherine Marsh never happens again. Hire someone who knows corporate structure, someone who will be there every day making sure everyone follows the rules. That's exactly what the position would be. Then hire someone who wants it. I've got a daughter to raise and a bookstore to run. Elena nodded slowly. Fair enough. But if you ever change your mind, I won't. She left through the back door. Marcus locked it behind her and climbed the stairs to his apartment. Sophie was asleep, her nightlight casting soft shadows. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed and watched her breathe, thinking about how close he'd come to losing this, how close they'd all come to disaster. The next week was quieter. The security team installed cameras, discreetly, no obvious equipment, just tiny lenses in corners that transmitted to a monitoring service. Marcus hated the idea of being watched, but he hated the idea of Sophie being vulnerable more. The reporters gradually moved on to other stories. Marcus reopened the bookstore. Customers came back, though some wanted to talk about the news instead of buying books. He learned to deflect, to smile politely, and change the subject. Sophie went back to school. Her teacher called the first day to say other kids were asking questions about her dad on TV. Marcus talked to Sophie that night, trying to explain in 7-year-old terms what had happened without scaring her. You helped someone who was in trouble, Sophie said when he finished. Like when I helped Emma when she fell on the playground. Exactly like that. But bigger. A lot bigger, and more dangerous. Which is why I need you to promise me something. If anyone ever asks you about what happened about Elena, or the news, you tell them you don't know, and you come get me or your teacher. Okay. Sophie's eyes got serious. Are the bad people going to come after me? Marcus's chest tightened. He'd tried so hard to shield her from the worst of it. No, baby. The bad people are in jail. But sometimes when people are on the news, other people get curious and ask questions. I just want to make sure you're safe. Like the cameras you put up. You noticed those. I'm not dumb, Daddy. I know what security cameras look like. Marcus pulled her into a hug. No, you're definitely not dumb. You're way too smart for your own good. Is Elena going to come visit us again? The question surprised him. I don't know. Maybe. Would you like that? Sophie shrugged. She was nice. And she was really sad. I hope she's happier now. I think she is. Good. Everybody deserves to be happy. Marcus kissed the top of her head, marveling at how simple the world was through a child's eyes. Everybody deserves to be happy. If only it were that easy. 2 weeks after Catherine's arrest, Marcus got a call from the FBI. Special Agent Sarah Chen, no relation, wanted him to come in for additional questioning. Not as a suspect, she assured him, but as a witness. They were building their case and needed his testimony. Marcus arranged for Rachel to watch Sophie and drove to the FBI field office downtown. Agent Chen was in her mid-40s, sharp-eyed, and no nonsense. She sat him in an interview room and went through everything again. The cafe encounter, finding Nathan's body, the storage facility, Pike Place Market, Torres's death. Agent Torres was a good man, Chen said. 15 years with the Bureau, wife and 2 kids. He died trying to protect witnesses, and we're going to make sure his death meant something. How's the case looking? Strong. Catherine Marsh's lawyers are fighting hard, but the evidence is overwhelming. Financial records, emails, toxicology reports, testimony from multiple witnesses. We've also arrested 3 of the contractors she hired. One of them is cooperating, gave us the whole operation. Catherine paid them $2 million to eliminate you and Ms. Blackwood. Marcus felt sick. $2 million. That's what his life was worth to Catherine Marsh. His and Elena's combined. When's the trial? Probably not for another year. Federal cases take time, especially ones this complicated. In the meantime, we need you to be careful. Catherine's still wealthy, still connected, and she's made it clear she considers you responsible for destroying her life. I'm responsible. She killed 2 people. That's our position. Her position is that she's a scapegoat, that Richard Blackwood was paranoid and mentally unstable, that his daughter inherited his delusions, and that you're an opportunist who saw a chance to play hero. That's insane. That's her defense strategy. And between you and me, it might work. Her lawyers are very good. They're already filing motions to suppress evidence challenging the admissibility of everything you found in Nathan Price's office. Marcus leaned back. So what happens if she wins? If she gets off? Then she goes free, probably leaves the country, lives somewhere without an extradition treaty, and laughs about it. Chen's expression was grim. Which is why we need your testimony to be airtight. No inconsistencies, no gaps. Everything documented and provable. They spent 3 more hours going over details. By the time Marcus left, it was dark outside, and he felt hollowed out. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. He drove to Rachel's to pick up Sophie. His sister met him at the door. How'd it go? They think Catherine might walk. Rachel closed her eyes. Marcus, I know what you're going to say, but I can't change what happened. I can only deal with it. By testifying in a trial that might last months, by putting yourself in the spotlight again, by making yourself a bigger target. What choice do I have if I don't testify Catherine definitely walks? At least this way there's a chance. Sophie appeared behind Rachel. Daddy, can we get ice cream on the way home? Marcus forced a smile. Sure, sweetheart. Let's get ice cream. They drove to a place Sophie loved, got cones, sat at a picnic table outside. Sophie chattered about school, about her friends, about a book she was reading. Marcus tried to focus to be present, but his mind kept drifting to Catherine Marsh in a courtroom, her lawyers tearing apart everything he'd done. Daddy, you're not listening. He blinked. Sorry, baby. What were you saying? I said Emma invited me to her birthday party next week. Can I go? Of course you can go. Are you okay? You look sad. Marcus took a bite of his ice cream, buying time. How did you explain to a 7-year-old that the woman you helped put in jail might go free and come after you? I'm okay. Just tired. It's been a long day. Sophie studied him with those 2 perceptive eyes. Is it because of Elena? What? No. Why would you think that? Because you look the same way you looked after Mommy died. Really sad, but trying to pretend you're not. Marcus's throat tightened. Sometimes Sophie was too smart for her own good. I'm not sad about Elena. I'm just worried about some things. Grown-up things. But it's nothing you need to worry about, okay? Okay. Sophie went back to her ice cream, but Marcus could tell she didn't believe him. They finished eating and drove home. Marcus tucked Sophie into bed, read her 2 chapters of her current book, and sat with her until she fell asleep. Then he went to his own room and pulled up news articles on his phone. Catherine Marsh's defense team had released a statement. They were claiming their client was innocent, that she was being framed by a disturbed employee and her accomplice. They were painting Richard Blackwood as paranoid, Elena as mentally unstable, and Marcus as an opportunist who'd manipulated the situation. The comments section was split. Half the people believed Catherine was guilty. The other half thought this was a conspiracy, that Elena had killed her own father for the inheritance and was using Catherine as a scapegoat. Marcus turned off his phone and stared at the ceiling. This was going to get worse before it got better. His phone buzzed. Text from Elena. Saw the defense team's statement. I'm sorry. This is my fault. Marcus responded, Not your fault. We did the right thing. That's what matters. Elena, doesn't feel like it right now. Marcus, I know, but we can't control what her lawyers say. We can only control what we do. Elena, will you still testify even knowing how bad this might get? Marcus thought about Sophie asleep down the hall, about Rachel's fears, about Torres lying dead in an alley, about Nathan Price and Richard Blackwood and everyone else Catherine had destroyed. Marcus, yes, I'll testify, whatever it takes. Elena, thank you for everything. Marcus, get some sleep. Tomorrow's another fight. He set the phone down and tried to follow his own advice. But sleep didn't come easy, and when it did, he dreamed of courtrooms and lawyers and Catherine Marsh smiling as she walked free. The next morning brought more complications. A process server showed up at the bookstore with a lawsuit. Catherine Marsh was suing Marcus for defamation theft, breaking and entering, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. She was asking for $10 million in damages. Marcus called Elena immediately. "She can't do this. She's in jail awaiting trial." "Her lawyers can do it for her," Elena said. "It's a tactic. They're trying to intimidate you, make you think twice about testifying. Don't worry about the money. I'll have Blackwood's legal team defend you. They can't win this case." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. Everything you did was to expose a criminal. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. And as for the rest, they'll never prove damages. This is harassment, nothing more." But it didn't feel like nothing when Marcus opened the bookstore and found protesters outside. 5 people with signs reading "Justice for Catherine Marsh" and "Corporate whistleblowers are frauds." Apparently, Catherine had supporters, people who believed her version of events. Marcus closed the store early. He couldn't deal with this today. He picked up Sophie from school and took her to the park, trying to create some normalcy. They played on the swings. She chased squirrels. For a few hours, he almost forgot about lawsuits and trials and everything else. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Marcus Chen." A woman's voice, professional. "Yes. My name is Rebecca Winters. I'm a producer for 60 Minutes. We're doing a segment on the Blackwood Pharmaceuticals case and we'd love to interview you." "Not interested." "We're prepared to offer compensation, $50,000 for a 1-hour interview." Marcus almost dropped the phone. $50,000. That was more than his bookstore made in a good year. "I said I'm not interested." "Mr. Chen, this is an opportunity to tell your side of the story. Catherine Marsh's team is doing interviews. They're controlling the narrative. Don't you want to respond?" "No, I just want to be left alone." "I understand this is difficult, but—" Marcus hung up. His hands were shaking. $50,000. For an hour of his time. Money that could pay off his debts, set up a college fund for Sophie, maybe even let him take a breath financially. But it would also make him more of a target. More cameras, more attention, more ways for Catherine's lawyers to twist his words. No. He'd made his choice when he gave Elena that sandwich. He'd fight this through testimony, not media appearances. Sophie came running up. "Daddy, can we go home? I'm hungry." "Yeah, sweetheart. Let's go home." They made dinner together, spaghetti. Sophie's favorite. She told him about school, about how her teacher was reading them a book about dragons. Marcus listened and responded, but part of his mind was still on that phone call. $50,000. So much money. Money he desperately needed. But some things you couldn't put a price on, and his integrity was one of them. After Sophie went to bed, Marcus sat down and wrote an email to Margaret Yao at Blackwood Pharmaceuticals. He thanked her for the security installation. He thanked her for the job offer. And then he wrote, "I appreciate everything you and Elena have tried to do for me, but I need to be clear, I didn't help Elena for money or recognition. I did it because it was right. Whatever comes next, I'll face it the same way. Please don't offer me anything else. Just make sure Blackwood Pharmaceuticals becomes what Richard Blackwood wanted it to be. That's all the payment I need." He hit send before he could second-guess himself. 30 seconds later, his phone rang. Elena. "Marcus, I just saw your email. Are you sure that job offer was legitimate? We really do need someone like you." "I'm sure. This isn't my world, Elena. I don't belong in boardrooms or corporate offices. I belong in my bookstore with my daughter. Even if Catherine's lawyers come after you, even if this trial drags on for years, even then." Elena was quiet for a moment. "You're a better person than most people I know." "I'm just a guy who made a choice. Anyone would have done the same." "No. They wouldn't have. Most people would have walked away. You didn't. And I'll never forget that. They talked for a few more minutes, then said goodnight. Marcus sat in his living room listening to the sounds of the city outside and wondered if he'd made the right choice, walking away from that money, from that security, from all of it. But when he looked at Sophie's drawing on the refrigerator, the one of their bookstore with Daddy's Store written at the top, he knew he had. Some things were more important than money. Some things you couldn't buy or sell or compromise on. Integrity was one of them. And Marcus Chen wasn't about to sell his, no matter how high the price. The trial date came 14 months later. 14 months of depositions, motions, delays, and legal maneuvering. 14 months of living with security cameras and checking over his shoulder. 14 months of Sophie asking when things would go back to normal. Marcus closed the bookstore the day before he was scheduled to testify. He spent the afternoon with Sophie at the aquarium, watching her press her face against the glass to see the sharks laughing when sea otters swam upside down. He tried to memorize every detail just in case. "Daddy, why are you so quiet?" Sophie asked on the ferry ride home. She was 8 now, taller, her questions sharper. "Just thinking. About tomorrow." He'd tried to keep her sheltered from the worst of it, but she watched the news. She heard things at school. She knew her father was going to testify against someone who'd killed people. "Yeah, about tomorrow." Sophie took his hand. "Aunt Rachel says you're going to tell the truth, and that's all you can do." "Aunt Rachel's right." "Are you scared?" Marcus looked at his daughter. He could lie, tell her everything was fine. But he'd promised himself after Jessica died that he'd never lie to Sophie about important things. "Yeah, I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of saying the wrong thing, of not being believed, of letting people down." Sophie squeezed his hand tighter. "You won't. You helped Elena when nobody else would. You stopped bad people from hurting more people. That's what heroes do." "I'm not a hero, sweetheart." "Yes, you are. You're my hero." Marcus's throat closed up. He pulled Sophie into a hug right there on the ferry deck, not caring who saw. This was why he'd done it. All of it. Not for recognition or money or justice, but because he wanted Sophie to grow up knowing her father stood for something. That night, Rachel came over to stay with Sophie. Marcus reviewed his testimony notes one last time, then forced himself to stop. Either he knew the story or he didn't. No amount of preparation would change what happened. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling until his alarm went off at 5 a.m. The federal courthouse downtown was surrounded by news vans. Marcus entered through a side entrance escorted by FBI agents. Inside, Elena waited in the witness room. She'd already testified twice, spending 6 days on the stand, while Catherine's lawyers tried to tear her apart. She looked thinner, older. The trial had taken its toll. "How are you holding up?" Marcus asked. "I've been better. Her lawyers are claiming I fabricated evidence to steal the company from Catherine. They're saying my father was senile and I manipulated him." Elena's hands shook slightly. "They're making him sound like a fool, like his whole life meant nothing. The jury doesn't believe that. You don't know that. You haven't been in there. Her lawyers are good, Marcus, really good. They've created reasonable doubt about everything. Then I'll get rid of that doubt. That's why I'm here. What if they tear you apart too? What if—" "Elena." Marcus took her hands. "We did the right thing. No matter what happens in that courtroom, we know the truth. Torres knew the truth. Nathan knew the truth. Your father knew the truth. That has to be enough." She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Agent Chen appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Chen, they're ready for you." Marcus stood. His legs felt like water. He followed Agent Chen down a hallway through heavy doors and into the courtroom. The space was packed. Reporters in the gallery, spectators filling every seat, and at the defense table, Catherine Marsh sat perfectly composed in a tailored suit, her expression neutral. She looked at Marcus and smiled slightly, as if they were old friends meeting for coffee. Marcus walked to the witness stand. The bailiff swore him in. He sat down and for the first time really looked at the jury. 12 faces. 12 people who would decide if Catherine paid for what she'd done or walked free. The prosecutor, a woman named Diana Reeves, approached. "Please state your name for the record." "Marcus Chen." "Mr. Chen, can you tell the jury how you first encountered Elena Blackwood?" Marcus took a breath and told the story. The cafe, the breakfast sandwich, the lawyers who weren't lawyers, Elena's desperation, the decision to help. Catherine's lead defense attorney, a man named Gerald Whitmore, watched with predatory patience. Marcus could feel him waiting for an opening. "And what happened next?" Reeves asked. Marcus described finding Nathan Price's body, the files, the evidence, Pike Place Market and Torres's death, every detail, every moment laid out chronologically. "Mr. Chen, why did you get involved in this situation? You didn't know Ms. Blackwood. You had no connection to Blackwood Pharmaceuticals. Why risk your life?" Marcus looked at the jury. "Because someone needed help, and I was in a position to give it. Because I knew what it felt like when the system fails you and nobody stands up. And because I have a daughter and I wanted her to grow up knowing that doing the right thing matters even when it's hard." "Objection," Whitmore said. "Relevance." "Sustained. Mr. Chen, please limit your answers to the questions asked." The examination continued for 3 hours. Reeves walked Marcus through every piece of evidence, every conversation, every moment that built the case against Catherine. Marcus was careful, precise, refusing to be led into speculation or opinion. Then it was Whitmore's turn. He approached the witness stand like a shark circling prey. "Mr. Chen, you describe yourself as a bookstore owner, is that correct?" "Yes." "But that's not entirely accurate, is it? You used to work in corporate investigations. You specialized in fraud cases. That was 8 years ago. But you still have those skills. The ability to manipulate evidence, create narratives, make innocent actions look guilty." "Objection," Reeves said. "Counsel is testifying." Sustained. Whitmore smiled. "Let me rephrase. Mr. Chen, isn't it true that you had significant debt, that your bookstore was barely profitable, that you were facing possible foreclosure?" Marcus felt his chest tighten. "I had some financial difficulties, yes." "And isn't it convenient that after you became involved with Ms. Blackwood, you were offered a 6-figure position at her company?" "I turned that position down. Only after the media attention made acceptance look suspicious. But you did accept compensation, didn't you? Security systems installed free of charge. Legal representation paid for by Blackwood Pharmaceuticals. Would you say you've benefited financially from this situation?" "Objection," Reeves stood. "Mr. Chen accepted basic security measures after receiving death threats from the defendant's associates." "Alleged death threats," Whitmore corrected. "Which brings me to my next point. Mr. Chen, you claim my client threatened your daughter. Do you have any proof of this? Any recordings, any witnesses?" "She called my phone," she said. "She allegedly called your phone. But you didn't record the call, did you?" "No." "And the number showed as unknown, correct?" "Yes." "So you have no proof that Catherine Marsh made this call. It could have been anyone." "It was her voice." "You'd never spoken to Ms. Marsh before that day. How can you be certain?" Marcus gripped the armrest. "I know what I heard." "You know what you wanted to hear. What fit the narrative you and Ms. Blackwood were building." Whitmore paced. "Mr. Chen, isn't it possible that you were manipulated, that Ms. Blackwood, grieving and unstable after her father's death, convinced you of a conspiracy that didn't exist?" "No. The evidence. Evidence you stole from a dead man's office. Evidence you removed from a crime scene. Evidence that, according to multiple experts, could have been tampered with." "We didn't tamper with anything." "But you could have. You had the skills, the motive, and the opportunity. You and Ms. Blackwood alone in a storage facility with files that conveniently proved everything she'd been claiming." "How convenient?" Marcus's jaw clenched. We didn't fabricate anything. Nathan Price documented everything before Catherine killed him. Allegedly killed him. The medical examiner ruled Mr. Price's death a suicide, because it was staged to look like one. By whom do you have witnesses? Security footage? Anything beyond your speculation? Marcus knew this was coming. They'd discussed it in prep sessions. Catherine had been careful. No direct evidence linking her to Nathan's death. Just circumstantial connections. No. But the timing. The timing of a depressed man taking his own life. Mr. Chen Nathan Price's wife had died 10 years ago. His children lived across the country. He was isolated, lonely. Isn't it possible he simply couldn't handle the pressure anymore? He was murdered. You believe he was murdered, but belief isn't evidence, is it? The cross-examination continued for 2 more hours. Whitmore picked apart every detail, every assumption, creating doubt about everything Marcus had said. By the time Reeves stood for redirect, Marcus felt hollowed out. Mr. Chen, did you fabricate any evidence in this case? Reeves asked. No. Did you manipulate Ms. Blackwood or coach her testimony? No. Did you have any motive to lie about what happened beyond seeking justice for murder victims? No. Thank you. No further questions. The judge dismissed Marcus. He walked back to the witness room on shaky legs. Elena was there, and she stood when he entered. How bad was it? She asked. Bad. He made me look like an opportunist who manipulated you. The jury won't believe that. Won't they? Marcus sat down heavily. Elena, what if we're wrong? What if the evidence isn't enough? What if Catherine walks? Then we tried. We fought. That's more than most people do. Is it enough? Elena sat beside him. It has to be. They sat in silence, 2 people who'd risked everything for justice, waiting to find out if their sacrifice meant anything. The jury deliberated for 4 days. Marcus tried to work at the bookstore, but he couldn't focus. He kept checking his phone, waiting for news. Sophie asked him every day if they'd decided yet. Rachel called twice daily to check on him. On the 4th day, his phone rang. Agent Chen. They've reached a verdict. Be at the courthouse in an hour. Marcus called Rachel. Can you pick up Sophie from school? I need to be downtown. It's happening. It's happening. He drove to the courthouse, hands shaking on the wheel. Elena was already there, standing with her lawyers. She looked terrified. Whatever happens, Marcus said, we did everything we could. I know, but I need her to pay for what she did. I need my father's death to mean something. They entered the courtroom together. Catherine sat at the defense table perfectly calm. The jury filed in their faces, unreadable. The judge entered. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman stood. We have, Your Honor. On the count of conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Richard Blackwood. How do you find? Marcus held his breath. We find the defendant guilty. The courtroom erupted. Elena grabbed Marcus's hand, tears streaming down her face. Catherine's expression finally cracked, shock and rage flashing across her features. On the count of conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Nathan Price, how do you find guilty? On the count of wire fraud, guilty. On the count of tampering with FDA clinical trial data, guilty. Guilty on all 17 counts. Catherine stood, her composure shattered. This is a mistake. This is... Her lawyers pulled her down. The judge thanked the jury and set sentencing for 6 weeks out. The bailiffs led Catherine away in handcuffs. She looked back once, her eyes finding Marcus, and the hatred there was so pure it made him flinch. But she was going to prison. For a long time. And that was all that mattered. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Marcus pushed through without comment. Elena stopped to make a brief statement about justice being served and her father's legacy being honored. Marcus kept walking until he reached his truck. His phone rang. Sophie calling from Rachel's phone. Daddy, Aunt Rachel says the trial is over. Did you win? Yeah, baby. We won. So the bad person is going to jail. For a very long time. Good. Can you come get me? I miss you. I'm on my way right now. Marcus drove to Rachel's house, and when Sophie ran out to meet him, he picked her up and spun her around the way he used to when she was little. You did it, she said, hugging him tight. I knew you would. We did it, all of us together. Rachel stood on the porch, arms crossed, but she was smiling. I guess you made the right choice after all. You had doubts. Every single day. But I'm glad I was wrong. That night, Marcus made Sophie's favorite dinner. They ate together, just the two of them, and talked about normal things: school, books, her upcoming science project. No more trials, no more danger. Just a father and daughter having dinner. Later, after Sophie went to bed, Marcus sat on the couch and finally let himself feel everything he'd been holding back for 14 months. The fear, the exhaustion, the relief. He cried quietly, grateful Sophie couldn't hear. His phone buzzed. Text from Elena. Thank you for everything. My father would have liked you. Marcus. I wish I could have met him. Elena. He would have been proud of what we did, both of us. Marcus. What happens now? Elena. I rebuild. Make the company what he wanted it to be. Make sure his death wasn't in vain. Marcus, you will. I know you will. Elena. What about you? What happens to Marcus Chen now? Marcus looked around his small apartment. At Sophie's drawings on the refrigerator. At the bookshelves lining the walls. At the life he'd built after losing everything. Marcus. I go back to normal. Or as normal as things can be after something like this. Elena. If you ever need anything. Marcus. I know. Same goes for you. They said goodnight. Marcus turned off his phone and sat in the quiet, thinking about choices and consequences and the price of integrity. 6 weeks later, Catherine Marsh was sentenced to 45 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole. Viktor Sokolov was arrested in Moscow on related charges. 3 board members who'd helped Catherine were convicted on lesser charges. Blackwood Pharmaceuticals, completely restructured under Elena's leadership. Project Chrysalis was permanently shelved. The company established new oversight protocols and an ethics board with real authority. Stock prices recovered slowly but steadily. Agent Torres was posthumously awarded the FBI Medal of Valor. His family received a settlement from the federal government. Olivia Park's article won a Pulitzer Prize. She donated the prize money to a foundation for whistleblower protection, and Marcus Chen went back to running his bookstore. Business picked up after the trial. People wanted to meet the man who'd taken down $1 billion corporation. Marcus was polite, but distant, unwilling to capitalize on what had happened. Eventually, the curiosity faded, and he became just another small business owner in Seattle. 3 months after sentencing, on a Saturday morning, Elena walked into Chen's books. She wore jeans and a sweater, looking more like the woman who'd collapsed in that cafe than the CEO she'd become. Sophie was helping Marcus restock shelves. She looked up when Elena entered. Elena! Sophie ran over and hugged her. You came back. Elena knelt down. I promised I would, didn't I? I thought you forgot about us. Never. I could never forget about you two. Marcus walked over, wiping dust from his hands. How are you holding up? Better. The company's stable. The board approved everything I proposed. We're launching 3 new drugs that actually help people and won't kill them. It's what my father wanted. He'd be proud. I hope so. Elena looked around the bookstore. This place is wonderful. It suits you. It's home. Sophie tugged on Elena's hand. Do you want to see my favorite section? Daddy just got new books about space. I'd love to. Sophie dragged Elena toward the science section, chattering about astronauts and planets. Marcus watched them go, feeling something settle in his chest. Peace, maybe. Or just the knowledge that sometimes when you do the right thing it actually works out? Elena stayed for an hour. She bought 6 books, insisted on paying full price despite Marcus's protests, and sat with Sophie reading about Mars rovers. Before she left, she pulled Marcus aside. "I meant what I said. If you ever change your mind about that job, I won't." "I know, but I had to offer one more time," she smiled. "Thank you, Marcus, for giving me my life back." "You gave it back yourself. I just helped you remember it was worth fighting for." She hugged him quick and fierce, then said goodbye to Sophie and left. Sophie came and stood beside Marcus at the window watching Elena walk down the street. "Is she going to be okay?" Sophie asked. "Yeah, I think she is." "Are we going to be okay?" Marcus pulled his daughter close. "We're going to be better than okay." That night after closing the store, Marcus and Sophie walked to their favorite pizza place. They ordered too much food and talked about everything and nothing. Sophie told him about a boy at school who'd pulled her hair. Marcus told her about a rare book that had come in that week. "Daddy," Sophie said as they walked home, "I'm proud of you." "Yeah. Why's that?" "Because you helped someone when it was hard. Because you were brave. Because you're my dad." Marcus's eyes stung. "I'm proud of you too, sweetheart. For being patient while all this was happening. For being understanding. For being you." They walked the rest of the way in comfortable silence, father and daughter survivors of a storm that had nearly destroyed them, but ultimately made them stronger. 6 months after that, Marcus got a letter. It was from Catherine Marsh, postmarked from the federal prison in California where she was serving her sentence. He almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won. The letter was short. "You think you won. You think justice was served. But you destroyed more than you saved. Jobs lost. Lives ruined. Families destroyed. All because you couldn't mind your own business. I hope it was worth it." Marcus read it twice, then folded it carefully and put it in his desk drawer. He knew what she wanted to make him doubt to poison his peace with guilt. But he'd made his choice. He'd stand by it. That evening, he took Sophie to the cafe, where it had all started. Joe still ran, the place still made terrible coffee and decent sandwiches. They sat in the same booth where Elena had sat that rainy morning. "Why did we come here?" Sophie asked. "Because this is where it started, where I made a choice that changed everything." "Do you wish you'd made a different choice?" Marcus thought about it. About all the fear and danger and cost. About Torres's death and Nathan's death and the 14 months of hell. "No," he said finally. "I don't." "Why not?" "Because some things are more important than being safe or comfortable. Some things you have to fight for even when the odds are terrible and you're scared and you don't know if you'll win." Sophie nodded seriously. "Like justice. Like justice." They ate their sandwiches in comfortable silence. Then Sophie said, "Daddy, if someone needed help like Elena did, would you do it again?" Marcus looked at his daughter, at her earnest face and wise eyes. He thought about the question carefully. "I hope I'd have the courage to," he said honestly. "But I also hope I'd be smarter about it. Make sure you were safe first. Make better choices. But you'd still help." "Yeah, baby, I'd still help." Sophie smiled. "Good, because that's what heroes do." Marcus pulled her into a hug. "I love you, kiddo." "I love you too, Daddy." They finished eating and walked home through the Seattle evening past the bookstore that was their livelihood up the stairs to the apartment that was their home. Marcus tucked Sophie into bed and read her a chapter of her book. Then he sat in his living room with a cup of tea and looked at everything he'd almost lost. His phone buzzed. Text from Elena. Board approved the James Blackwood Memorial Scholarship. Full ride for 20 students per year to study pharmaceutical ethics. First recipients announced next month. He'd be proud. Marcus smiled and typed back, he would be. So would Nathan and Torres. Elena. We did it, Marcus. We actually did it. Marcus. Yeah, we did. He set down his phone and sat in the quiet of his apartment listening to Sophie breathe in the next room, thinking about justice and sacrifice and the price of doing what's right. Catherine Marsh would spend the rest of her life in prison. Elena would rebuild her father's company into something worthy of his legacy. Torres's children would grow up knowing their father died a hero, and Marcus Chen would keep running his bookstore, raising his daughter, living a quiet life that was worth more than all the money Catherine had tried to steal. Sometimes the good guys won. Not always, not even often, but sometimes. And when they did, it mattered. Marcus finished his tea, checked the locks one last time, and went to bed. Tomorrow he'd open the store. He'd sell books. He'd have lunch with Sophie. He'd live the life he'd fought so hard to protect. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.